Hey, this is Steve at RPM Garage, aka RPM Off-Road Garage. We have here 2025 GX550. We did some work on this one. It's a pretty simple build. Starting with suspension, it's got a king shock setup, front and rear, front coilovers, rear shocks, and with adjusters and reservoirs, as you can see. In the rear of this truck, we're actually running Toyota OEM Tundra springs off the 3rd gen Tundras. That would be the 2022 and newer. Rides really well, and it works great with these shocks. And everyone's different. So some guys have the rear bumper, they got more weight, they're gonna have to run a different spring. But we've run a bunch of other types of coils, but for this particular build, we're using the Tundra spring. Customer's not planning to add any other weight to it in the rear for now. Up front, these are the Icon billet upper control arms. They look awesome. These arms come in also silver anodized, but these are gold. Didn't know how it was gonna look, but it actually looks really cool with these king shocks. Up front here, we have a CBI off-road low pro bumper, and in there is a couple Baja Designs light bar. So usually there is a straight 30-inch bar in there that you could run, and you can run any 30-inch light bar, but this customer wanted Baja Designs and he wanted something different. So we have in there actually two S8s on the sides, and we have one Onyx 6 light bar in the middle. And the Onyx 6 is the brighter bar, but it was so big that we had to trim the top of the bumper. It's protruding a little bit. So we don't know how we feel about that, but you know what, it works. The guy's really cool. He doesn't mind it poking out. He's got some pretty crazy cars that are pretty wild, so that doesn't bother him. We have a worn 12,000 pound winch in there, factor 55 ultra hook and anodized black, and their fair lead in that gray that they usually sell it in. So that's that. So that's pretty much the exterior. And we got wheels and tires. Toyo tires, 35-inch AT3s. When the customers are not planning to do any hardcore off-roading, they might see some snow, mostly daily driving. This is a great tire to run because it has good siping in it for rain and snow, and the ride quality is good. On my personal truck, I like it a little more aggressive, and I don't mind a little bit extra noise, and I run the RT Trail. It's not crazy loud, but this is more of a cushy tire, so that's why we chose it for this vehicle. As far as the lights, we talked about the lights up front, and we have ditch lights here as well. We're running the JW off-road ditch light brackets. We love how the light's positioned. The functionality of the mirrors are still there. Still folds with no problem. I think it's not folding right now because the hood's up, but let's try shutting it. There we go. Let's try locking it. Maybe the function is disabled right now. Let's take a look. Let's do auto. Let's key on really quick. Let's put it on auto. Key off. There we go. So yeah, no issue with the folding feature with these light brackets. So you notice the backlightings on the LEDs. The S8s have backlighting. Onyx 6 does not have backlighting, so that one's not on, but these LP4s do. And that's because of the S-Pod. We wired all the... Let's wake up the S-Pod. The cool thing about an S-Pod is you can wake up this screen and use all the lights without turning on the vehicle. A lot of these type of devices, if you wire it to switch power to turn on when you turn on the vehicle, you cannot wake up the screen and turn on the lights. But with this unit, you can. And let's open the hood back up so we can show you the brain. And we usually recommend a lighting controller like an S-Pod or a Switch Pro or something like an aux beam when the customer's running more than a couple lights. And it's because it keeps the wiring really clean. We got the unit right here. So all the lights would be, if you're not familiar with these type of devices, all the lights are wired to this unit. And then there's only one harness that goes into the vehicle to control. And you also have Bluetooth control from the application on your phone. And let's go take a look at the screen. I'm gonna show you a really cool feature because a lot of lighting controllers don't have this feature. So we all know that, you know, there's a bunch of channels in here. There's 8 channels and they control lights. And you could press, you know, there's your ditch light turning on. We have a switch for the backlight, the front center light bar, which is the Onyx 6 up front. Let's just go take a look at that real quick. There it is. Just turn that off. And what I like about this unit is the dimming control is very easy to use. So if you look at that tree, I know it's hard to see, it's daytime right now, but I'm controlling the intensity of that LED based off that. These are the 2 S8 fog lights up front. So this is all without running the vehicle. So you can turn on and off the lights without turning on the vehicle. It's on dim mode right now, so it's pretty light. But if you look at that tree really closely, let's zoom in. Intensity up, down, up, down. So let's turn that off. On this GX, there's no mounting kits available for this keypad yet. So what we do is we try to put it in a position where it's visible from the driver's seat. And also, you know, we drilled into this bezel right here for the AC vent on the side. And this piece is replaceable. That's why we do that. We try not to like drill into the dash where it'd be a major problem to replace. But in our seating position here, you could easily see the screen and it's easily within reach. That's how we usually like to keep the keypads. And if possible, if the customer doesn't mind it up high, it's easier to see because let's say you're off-roading and you're like, oh dude, I can't see, I need to turn on some lights. It's easy to see, it's easy to press. That's what we like to do because it makes more sense. But you know, customers, some of them like it more hidden. We could put it down here, but it's harder to see while you're driving. And you know, if you're on a trail and you're kind of moving, that could be dangerous. But let me show you something that's really cool about this S-Pod. Aside from using these buttons to trigger a light to come on, you could actually use a switch in the car. So they have something called external inputs. So for each light channel, you can add an external trigger. So I could use the factory fog light switch here to trigger on the S8 fogs here without having to press that button. So it makes it easier for day-to-day usage. So let's turn this vehicle on. By the way, this truck has a Remark catback exhaust. That's why it sounds pretty nice. So let's hear that. Sounds awesome. All right, so everything's off right now. So you see nothing's on. So when you turn something on, it illuminates the button. So the customer wanted to run, wanted us to set up the fog lights to be triggered off the factory switch. So, you know, we're running the S8s to that switch right there. But if I turn this guy on right here, it automatically triggers that switch to turn on because we added that trigger with an external trigger. So let's go over to the front. S8 fogs are on. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off right now. That turns off. So the unit, the S-Pod, turns the lights off and now it's off. So I think that's really cool. Actually, I didn't know about that feature, and the customer is like, hey, I think this unit can do it. So he asked us to wire that up and it definitely works. So we are pretty stoked about that. So here's the truck overall. It looks really good. Let's go check out that exhaust. It's a full stainless system. I really like the twin turn down tips. Looks awesome. It sounds great. It's not loud. It's just enough when you kind of throttle in and you hear it, but when you're cruising, it's not loud at all. It's got the amp steps on the side. So that's pretty much it. All I want to cover. Don't know what mods that he's thinking about next, but it's been a pleasure working on this truck. Customer's very cool. It gives us a lot of freedom to do our thing with it. Some of you guys might ask what these switches were. We added these because at first he didn't have that many lights, and he didn't know if he wanted to go get a lighting controller like an S-Pod. But as you know, once we added the ditch lights, he's like, hey, let's go for it. So we added this guy, and then we disconnected the wiring and lights from those two switches. These are just some switches from Amazon, but they actually look pretty cool for a generic switch. So if you guys are looking to do just one or two lights, these switches can be had on Amazon, and it will illuminate around the bezel here when you turn the lights on. But we definitely like the S-Pod a lot better. There's like off-road mode you can use, and you can set it up to strobe and all that cool stuff. But here's just a battery voltage meter and the temperature of the brain, in case it gets too hot. So there it is. And also, one last thing is you could rename all these switches to whatever light that you have it assigned to. Check that out. Well, thanks again for watching the video. This is the rig. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email, steve@rpm-garage.com. Thank you.